Hey guys, it's Boban and I'm back with another time lapse, and in this one I'm going to be doing my Mothman character design. This was out early on the Patreon, as was the post of the art itself. I'm starting to post things earlier there that I am doing it in my spare time, and I wanted to mess about with some rendering on this. I've already done one piece of him just to kind of get back into the flow, and I've got that over to the left as a little character reference for him. I want to draw some more of him soon as well. I'm kind of starting to like him again. So on this one I wanted to try something with a very heavy lighting at the bottom and then a silhouette at the top. It's generally more of an oppressive feel if you go with the darker values at the top and the lighter ones at the bottom, and I don't think that's something I have experimented with much. So I wanted to give it a go on this, and that gives me a chance to test out more subtle values in the top where we don't have as strong of a light hitting any of the forms, and then at the bottom we've got something a bit stronger that will satisfy my craving for very heavy contrast. I've been trying to figure out how to get my head around doing more subtle values with a smaller range, because I tend to end up using most of the full range from white to black, and it's a bit strong. It probably doesn't need to be that strong when I do a lot of things, and I will correct it later, but I want to be able to choose a range and stick to it and use that as a composition and focusing tool as well. And I struggle with it quite a lot for some reason, because I like this heavy contrast, and I'm assuming it's because I've come from doing cell shading where you have to really think about where the edges of that contrast are between the mid-tone and the shadow, and it's really difficult to break out of that into these softer shapes. With cell shading, I think it helps to get a more solid weighty form as well, whereas with these softer values, things are a lot softer and more squishy, I feel. And that could be a stylistic thing, but I do not like to use that as an excuse. I want to be able to use the full range, or I guess a smaller range of values. Like I said, I want to be able to do all the different things without having the sort of default as a restriction, the kind of default that I've learned. I don't tend to think of my style as something I am developing and working on. I tend to think of it as something that I am taking away. So it's something that is subtractive rather than additive. So my style starts to emerge when I remove the flaws that I am spotting in the way that I'm working. So it's more about taking away than it is adding anything. And I think that's kind of helped me develop it. I don't think I developed my style in the same way a lot of people do. I was very much starting with my own style and not really stealing things from other people in terms of style, I guess. I tend to see where my own defaults are in the way that I draw and then decide if I want to get rid of them. Anyways, with this Mothman design, I am not sure if it picks up on his shoes, but I tried to make the soles on them sort of very simple, symbolic versions of wings and an eyeball with eyelashes, I guess. I'm not sure if that carries through. It's probably a little bit too simplified to where it just blends in, but that is what I was going for. So we've got the wings kind of around the toes and then the eyeball and the eyelashes on the heel. He does also have light up shoes, because of course he does. I'm starting to try and incorporate more using the lasso selection to do my rendering with this one as well. I used to render like this a long time ago, but without the lasso tool and just with the airbrush. In some of my old cryptid paintings actually was where I used a lot of that. I wanted to start bringing that back in, like I've been using in some other pieces recently as well. And this was also a good excuse for me to play around with perspective. I wanted to do something, I guess kind of spooky. He's kind of spooky if he's hanging around up there on top of the light looking down at you. I think it might be a good idea for me to do more smaller things like this just to test out my rendering and maybe not noodle them quite as much as I did this one. I did hold off on overpainting on this very much. I'm starting to try and contain everything to where I don't need to overpaint, because that adds another stage onto the process, and it's only to fix anything that's a little bit wrong earlier in the process. So I'm trying to knock that out completely at this point. I did do a little bit of overpainting on this though, with textures. I think I put a little bit of dirt on his shoes and a bit of texture onto his cardigan at the top. And there's some in the background too, but it wasn't really overpaint in the usual way that I do it, where I will go and fix edges. It does have a little bit of lighting pull, just where that red is hitting as well, to define the forms a bit more, I think. Brighten it up wherever it needed to be brighter. But I tried to keep the overpaint to a minimum. I'm trying to train myself out of it slowly. And then also adding in a little bit more compositional details, I guess. I wanted to mirror the curve of his wings at the top with something down the bottom, so I added more lights on. He's just kind of hanging about above the pavement, like so. Anyway, this interpretation of Mothman, he's a nerd and he is clumsy and breaks things. That's the general theme of him. You don't want him to get near your stuff because he will break it. He is a bad omen. He's gonna break your stuff because he's tall and top heavy and clumsy, and his wings are gigantic. I didn't draw in either of these also, but I gave him the beady eyes in contrast to the usual trope of like Millhouse eyes, where they look like they have big eyes when they have their glasses on, but when they take them off they're very, very tiny and beady. I wanted to do the reverse with Mothman, so when he has his glasses on they're very small and beady and it makes him look even more goofy, but when he takes them off he's got these big glowy eyes. So I wanted to maintain the large glowing red eyes with both. So we've got either the glasses that make them light up and glow, or just on their own they are big, so whether he's got them on or not he's still got these big glowing eyes. And I also wanted to give him the big lumbering doofus sort of body type, so the spindly legs that make him look like he's going to topple over, and then the very chunky upper body, but it's actually all just fluff. It's all just fluff, and the ruffle around his neck is just where it's pushed up out of his shirt because he can't stuff it all down. I guess he's trying to study to be an engineer also, which is why he's got the kind of blueprint design shirt, but he is not very good at it at all. I haven't decided where the rest of his kind of character arc should go, but that's the basics of it. He also wears suspenders because nerd, and I guess he doesn't want to get pantsed by the bullies, and he's got elbow pads. Oh, not elbow pads, elbow patches, because he's probably ragged up the elbows on his cardigan from falling over. I did intend to do two versions of this, one with the lines and one without, and I think it looks fine either way, but in the end I decided to reduce them a little bit, I think. So the lines are there, but they're very pale, or I might have removed them altogether, I can't quite remember, but I like the way that it looked either way, and that's unusual for me. I don't tend to like it when the lines are on after I've done this much rendering on something, but I think it ended up looking nice. It kind of looked like a comic book cover, and I was happy with the result. I think there's definitely things I can work on. I still want to work on my values, but I think in general I did okay with him. I've sort of trained myself out of trashing my art over the years, but I've taken to writing my own notes on what I need to improve. So I have me a nice little list that I will be working on after doing this. Anyway, there he is. I think he is done. Thanks for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this. More stuff soon. Exclusive things on the Patreon. Links to everything in the description. Commissions. The Patreon. Prints. All the stuff. Yeah. There he is finished. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.